Bonelab has a bad story. Well, at least that's what everyone said. Go to any Bonelab discussion and you'll find the same take. The story is confusing, shallow, and barely there. And honestly, I get it. The first time I booted up, I could see exactly why someone would think that. But here's the thing. I think those people are wrong. Not because the story is obvious, but because Bonelab hid it, and most players never went looking. The problem starts with how people approach the game. Bonelab sells itself as a sandbox. You're immediately handed with a massive hub world, a bunch of levels to jump between, and total freedom to mess around. And that's great, but it means most players jump in with their brains switched off. They're not looking for a story, so they don't find one. The game doesn't hold your hand towards the narrative. It just leaves it there, waiting. And I think this is where Bonelab genuinely failed. Not in its writing, but in its presentation. Boneworks was linear, the story came to you. Bonelab is open, which means you have to go to the story. That's a big ask when most players don't even know that there's something to find. For example, this is what most playthroughs would look like, and I don't blame anyone for that. The game never tells you to slow down, but watch what that same player just walked past. Every single one of those is a story, just sitting there, waiting to be read. Before I get into what those clipboards actually say, quick word from today's sponsor. If you're playing Bonelab for long sessions, you already know the Quest headstrap isn't exactly comfortable. However, the Kiwi Design K4 boost not only makes it way more comfortable, but it extends the battery life so you're not getting kicked out of the game at the worst moment. The link is in the description if you want to go check it out. Now, back to the story. What's hidden in this game is genuinely fascinating. For example, all of the clipboards here describe the daily life of a lift crew supervisor. The lift crew supervisor's job is to send any items requested by the Fantasyland inhabitants from this lift up into Fantasyland Heaven's Reach. This clipboard here describes the supervisor's first week at work. He says he's very lucky to have landed this job and he really enjoys spending time with the rest of his crew. He says not many things are wished for anymore, so he spends most of his time with his crew playing headset games. He says they don't seem to have any intention in cutting their hours, and worst case, they might be moving to a different sector. Fantasyland has always been his favourite, so he hopes he gets to stay here longer. Now onto the second clipboard, which is written by the lift crew supervisor a little bit after he first started his work. He's frustrated that all of the Fantasyland inhabitants wish for are actual materials to help them live. He was thinking they may wish for alcohol or a badass motorcycle or something like that, something at least a little fun. But no, they spend most of their time struggling in an environment that was perfectly built for them to easily live in. Third clipboard is written by the supervisor's manager. Now his manager is frustrated that the supervisor has tried to modify the wishes into things that are actually fun, like for example said alcohol or said motorcycle. Those kind of things are outside of guidelines or said requests. Another log from the supervisor says that the Fantasyland inhabitants have suddenly decided to believe that the lift crew are now demons. And he says he wants to run an experiment. He shall send them a lift full of supplies with weapons or similar tools that they're not used to. He says that he will send them up with absolutely no instruction. However, he believes the slight variance in design will inspire them to violence. Then he will see if they continue to ignore the providers. Now this whiteboard just continues the story. But long story short, the lift crew supervisor decided to design the weapon that they're going to send up to the Fantasyland inhabitants. And I think that that's super cool to think that that's how this weapon got designed in Bonelab. One weapon has such a story behind it, and it's disappointing to think that most people completely ignore it. Now next time you hold this axe, just remember the guys working their asses off here completely designed this thing. So is Bonelab's story bad? No. But does Bonelab make it easy to find? Also no. It's a game that rewards curiosity and punishes people who came just for the sandbox. If you bounced off the story, I genuinely think it's worth going back with fresh eyes. Read the clipboards, pay attention to the environments, and connect it back to Bonelab. You might be surprised with what you find.